Hello, this is Charles Bass from the USD Alumni Association. We are all in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis and dealing with it as best we can. And our team at the USD Alumni Association is working remotely and finding new ways to keep alumni engaged with the university. One way we are doing this is through a podcast and Zoom interview series called USD Chats with Charles. Through these interviews, we are connecting with alumni who are doing important work in San Diego and beyond. I thought it would be interesting to hear the perspective of Matt Dolan. Matt graduated from USD School of Law in 1996 and is married to Karen Dolan, an undergraduate alumna from the class of 1991. Together, they serve as co-presidents of the Washington, D.C. Torero Club. They are also parents of two current USD students, Molly, a senior, and Annie, a second-year student. In addition to having a house full of toreros, Matt is a managing director with Free Group International Solutions, a firm that handles, among other things, crisis management and communication. In addition, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Matt's service in the U.S. Navy, including deployment as a Navy SEAL. Matt, thanks for your service. Thanks for all you do for USD, and it's great to chat with you today.
Well, thanks for having me, and hopefully I can add some value to everybody's quarantine.
All right. Well, I guess the first question is the easy one. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. So I have a son. So I had all my kids on the West Coast, and now my two toreros, Molly and Annie, are back here, and they're attending classes out of the house. My wife, we're doing well because she works for the United States Naval Academy, so she's working remote, and then I'm working remote through the Free Group. So we're all here in a big house. We were thinking of downsizing, but we waited a year, and thank God we did because we're using all the space and all the bandwidth to get so with everybody here working. So, but everyone's doing fine. I have a son also in Salt Lake City who was home for a week, but then went back to work. But he's working remote out of his house in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So all's good. We're blessed.
Well, glad to hear everybody's safe and healthy and mostly happy, I'm sure, although I know it's a challenge. I wanted to talk to you because of the variety of hats you wear as a current parent, an alumnus, a lead volunteer, and someone who deals with crisis management for a career. So can you talk a little bit about how your daughters, our two USD students, are doing and how they're handling this remote learning experience?
Yeah, I was amazed at how quickly USD shifted, their way of delivering classes because with it, they were on spring break. They went back, I think, for about a week, and then, things started shutting down. And so we heard they were coming back, and I think it was within a week they were back up and going to classes. And I just poke into the rooms every so often and just see them sitting online and attending classes as if they were in a classroom on the beautiful campus of USD. So I don't feel like we've even skipped a beat. They've missed a week of school, but they're into a good routine, and I think that good routine is really positive for them to get through this kind of very quiet time. And as a family, I think we're valuing just being together. Being empty nesters now, all of a sudden having two of our college age kids back, but having the joy of not they can't go out and stay out all night. So they just, but we have a good routine. Everybody works out, we eat dinner together, we have really nice meals, and we have a good routine, and the kids are still going to school. So I feel really good about it. And I think now we have after everybody kind of, from the shock of initially having this everything impact us, I think we're now looking forward to saying, okay, soon, what's it going to look like on the other end? And I think we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel soon. I hope.
I hope so too. I'm sure it's especially tough for Molly since her senior year was pretty seriously impacted. But we are very excited to welcome her and the rest of the class of 2020 back for their commencement ceremonies during homecoming and family weekend in October. I know you and I have talked about that. How is she feeling about that?
Yeah. I think she feels fine about it. I think, if everything would have gone as planned, we won't have as many memories as this one, right? So this one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit unique. We'll come back in October and see her graduate during the alumni weekend, but that's what makes memories, and that's what's going to make it special for the class of 2020. If you kind of look at it as not the typical or if you're upset that it's not the typical graduation, then it's a bad way to look at it. If you look at it as this will be something different, it'll be something special. It was a special time for our country and for the class of 2020. I hope as many people make it back for that graduation, because I think you do have to have a ceremony, graduation ceremony to send them off and to really celebrate their great work and their 4 years despite this pandemic.
For sure. And not everybody will know, but we're actually doing several pre-commencement ceremonies on the road. And I think Washington, D.C. might be one of the locations. So it'll be a chance for people to come and have a graduation with President Harris in 5 locations, although all those students or all those members of the class of 20 will certainly be welcome back on campus. So in a sense, it's great for me as the alumni director to get alums and these fresh new alumni with some more seasoned alums. So we'll see how that goes. So do you want to talk a little bit about your work world? You sent an email to USD's leadership remarking about the efforts to communicate to parents and students as the university made the decision to transition based on county, state, and federal guidelines and stay-at-home orders. In your view, what is the best way for an organization to deal with a crisis of this global magnitude?
Sorry, that's my dog. Part of my my work is, I would say it's crisis management, but the aspect I have is, since I'm a lawyer, I come in and I put together project teams to address whatever has caused the crisis. So that could be, most recently we did NMC Healthcare, which was out in Abu Dhabi, and that was a huge financial fraud case. So, as part of that team, when we put together those kind of teams, the most important person is the strategic communicator. And that's usually somebody from a PR firm that comes onto the team and makes sure that communications are happening. What we say is, up, across, and down, so that all your key constituencies are being provided the information they need to know in order to address the current crisis and get the organization back up on their feet and moving forward. Now, this was a situation, obviously, many universities were looking at, and I was really impressed by USD's ability to, they understood that communications and how important it was. Even if you don't have 100% of the answers, USD was putting information out, and they were sending really positive messages and trying to provide the most up-to-date information, and always had with a caveat that it may change. And so I always felt throughout this whole thing that it wasn't really, it puts us in a better frame of mind, and we're not kind of on edge, and then we're a little bit less anxious if we know at least what it may look like. And so USD just did a tremendous job, both from the Alumni Association and from President Harris and everybody else. I think that communication is so critical, and you always have to be thinking about who needs to know what and how to get that message out to them. You all use every avenue possible, whether that's emails and social media. So I think you all had those tools in place, and so when this hit, I think you just started using all those tools the way you've always have, and you did a great job getting the word out.
I know that the president and his leadership team have worked hard to try and communicate as best as possible.
Yeah, and I told Megan O'Rourke at the Alumni Association, what I specifically said is, I know when you're on the inside, it seems very chaotic, and it seems like all the pieces aren't coming together, and you're not getting the, you don't feel like you're really tackling any issues. You just feel like you're struggling through the whole thing. I wanted to, because I've been on that side, I wanted to make sure your team knew how positive the message had been. And so no matter how chaotic and crazy it may feel when you're trying to deal with it as part of that organization, I wanted to make sure that you all knew that you were doing a great job, and we were getting what we needed in order to get through that first couple weeks of March. So I think that's important, because you kind of forget, how the customer is actually reacting to what you're putting together.
Yeah, it's been really gratifying to see the response, to hear from our students that are that are adapting to this new way of our current normal. We're not going to call it the new normal because classes are going to resume. Our faculty have just been outstanding in terms of their commitment to the students, and it's a challenge that we're all going to get through and hopefully come through stronger on the other side. One thing I wanted to mention, you and Karen have been great as our Torero Club leaders, and an alumni network is a powerful thing. USD's network, I think, is getting stronger every day, especially for a school that's only 70 years old. If you think about our famous alumni that people ask about, like actor Jim Parsons, or in NASA's recent class of 12, the 2 USD alums who are in the new class of astronauts. And many of our alumni are in these positions of leadership in corporate and nonprofit organizations, government organizations. You and Karen lead our Torero Club in DC, and we're constantly hearing about connections made among USD alumni and students there, where connections are everything. So what are your thoughts about the USD network, particularly in Washington, DC?
Yeah, I don't know how many years ago it's been. Maybe, I don't know, about probably about 7 or 8 years. I think we had lunch together, and you came out and said, we're looking for a new president. And I said I would only do it if my wife could do it with me, because she's much better at it. But I thought, both Karen and I felt at the time that DC is a transition city, and there you have a lot of young alumni come out to DC for whether 2-3 years. They go to work for some government agency or some other think tank or other nonprofit, but they're there, and all we felt was that we could build some sense of community for them, understanding what it was to be in transition. There are some families here that have been here forever, and we love to see them in all the events, but we did understand that we wanted to build some sense of community so that even people coming in and out, they understand that they have this extra ability to network and also just to socialize and to go out to events. So that was important to us, especially having done 24 years in the military, being new in every city every 2 years. That was important to us, and it's been fun because we almost feel like all these young alums, they become close friends, and just getting them talking and meeting and networking and reaching out to each other for support. It's a great feeling, and we're blessed to have been asked to do it, and we love doing it.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. And so we've talked about the strong alumni network, and the next generation of Toreros is among the best and brightest. You have a couple of bright students right there in your house. In fact, this year we had about 14,000 applications for 1,100 spots for the class of 2024. And it's going to be interesting to see how their college experience is different than Karen's and your law school experience, but also Molly, even different than Molly and Annie's experience.
Yeah. Well, I was so impressed when I never thought my daughters were going out to the West Coast, but they were born on the West Coast. Molly was born in Hawaii, but Annie was born in San Diego, and they've identified as San Diego and I think they felt like they wanted to go back home. We had been on the East Coast for so long, but their experience has been wonderful. Living in San Diego, I think USD does a wonderful job. Everything that the current administration has brought with regards to change and just the mindset and the community service, I think it's really building the next generation. My niece was actually just admitted to the class of 2024. And so she's about to accept, and you're right. I wonder what it'll be like. It'll be different. I think it's going to be incredibly positive change due to our current events, because I think people really fully understand how important it is to get rid of all this bipartisan nonsense and work together to solve a lot of big issues that we're facing. So I think the 2024 class is going to be just tremendous, and it's got to energized and recharged to really take on and change the world.
I'm excited for it. Can't wait to welcome them to our beautiful campus. Any favorite memories of your time at USD that you or a favorite memory you can can recall that you want to share?
I
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that, I loved all of my professors at USD Law. Professor Bratton being one of them. He has since passed away, but he was just such a kind, smart, wonderful individual. Almost reminded me of my father, and he just loved the law, and he was just such a great teacher. But struggling through property, there was a famous case, and I forget the name of it now, but it was about possession of a fox. And I got as my judge as I was walking over to the library, kind of walking through the canyon by the parking lot, a little fox or some kind of thing walked by. And I thought that was just divine intervention just to kind of keep me motivated.
That's great.
That's the biggest memory. But I think, while I was there, I got married to my wife, and I had my firstborn in my third year of law school. So, and Brendan was baptized in Founders Chapel. So, yeah, we have a tremendous amount of memories, and we continue to build them there because Molly and Annie are there, and in October will be the next big memory.
Well, we'll definitely count Brendan as a Torero since he was baptized in Founders Chapel. So,
Yeah.
So that he counts too. So,
Yeah.
as we're all dealing with this crisis in our own ways, we hear a lot about self-care. And you mentioned your routine that you all have. What else? I suppose the appropriate question I really should ask is, what are you binge watching?
Yeah. My guilty pleasure was Tiger King.
Matt, I'm
But
losing respect.
sorry. And I was watching Ray Donovan. We were Ozark fans, and also, probably a better would be The Good Place. I binged watched that on the flights back and forth from Abu Dhabi on my most recent project. So that was actually more positive, and that's. I think Ray Donovan, Ozarks, and Tiger Kings are a little bit dark, but sometimes you need to kind of. Otherwise, we'd have nothing to talk about if I didn't watch Tiger King.
That's true. I'm with a group of people. We've had a couple of brunches, actually virtual brunches, and my assignment for the next one is to have watched Tiger King. So I've
Yeah.
seen a couple, and yeah.
If you watch it, you'll just go, my life isn't that bad. It's
That's true. All right. So for the last part of this official, very professional interview, I've lifted something from the great Alan Alda and his podcast called Clear and Vivid, which I highly recommend if you're a podcast listener. And perhaps my promotion of it will get me out of being sued by him for stealing his little idea. Or maybe, Matt, you can help provide me.
Yeah, I'll defend you.
Okay, great. So he asks his guests to answer 7 somewhat random questions. And but I'm only going to ask 3, and they're just a way to they're not hard, and it's just a way to get to know you a little better. So number 1, can you name a favorite book or movie that inspired you and why?
Yes. Oh God. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, but it's Herman Melville. My father gave it to me.
Moby Dick?
No, it's the other one
Oh,
where the young British sailor comes aboard, and he winds up. There's a death on the ship, and he's accused of the death, and he's court-martialed. Let me come back to that because I can actually Google it as we speak.
okay, we'll come back to that one.
But the reason why I say it is my father gave me that book.
Was your father
All
in
right,
the
go
Navy
ahead.
as well?
No, he just, when I was heading off to the Navy, he thought that was a appropriate book.
All right. Okay. Question number 2. You live on the East Coast, but with your daughters at USD, you have to come back. You get to come back occasionally. So when you do get back to San Diego, do you have a go-to meal?
Buena Faqueta is down in, yeah, we go to that one all the time. And the reason why we go to that one is because it's a legitimate Neapolitan pizza. We lived in Naples, Italy for 3 years, and so we're always looking for that perfect wood-fired pizza, and they do it. That's about as close as Naples, Italy as you can get. So that's a definite. And then of course I've got to go out and get some kind of Mexican. We go down to Coronado because we lived there for most of the time when the 11 years when we were there. And we go to the place on 10th and Orange, and I forget the name of it. Clancy, no, not Clancy's. Clayton's, thank you. Clayton's.
There's an audience. Great.
Oh, I'm getting hungry now that you're asking me all
Me
those great
too.
questions. Yes.
Okay. And finally, you may have already mentioned it, but what is your favorite spot on the USD campus?
Um, I I think it's got to be the water fountain now, right in the middle, because you can pretty much see everything, and on a warm, beautiful day, you can see down to the ocean. It's just a spectacular spot. It's That's a very hard question because there's so many beautiful spots um, on the USD campus, but that one comes to mind, just kind of right in the middle, and always being outside are very special, and it's a very special and beautiful campus.
Yeah.
I
For people that haven't been to campus in a while, what was Colossus Plaza has been extended all the way to really to the edge of campus. So it's Paseo de Colossus, and it's just a spectacular vista for sure.
Yeah,
Did you come up with your favorite book?
yeah, it's now you got me.
That's all right.
All right,
It'll
now
inspire.
someone the way I described it, someone will remember it if we go up. Uh,
Will it'll be actually be a good challenge for our listener or listeners. There's at least one, I
yes,
hear. So we can inspire them to go off to the library, or at least online, and find Herman Melville's other book. He has others, but he's certainly famous for one.
see, I don't have my glasses on,
Oh,
so I
okay.
can't see anything anyway.
That's all right.
Oh,
So
that's all right. Sorry about that.
no problem. But so that's kind of
Billy Budd.
Billy Budd. Way to go.
Yes,
All right. Herman Melville's Billy Budd inspired
yes,
you, but it's an inspirational gift from your father as you headed off to the U.S. Navy, where you had
yes,
a spectacular 24-year career, and now you're doing other
yeah.
great things. So that's a wrap for today's visit. For more information about the USD Alumni Association, including the Washington, D.C. Torero Club, please visit our website at alumni.sandiego.edu. And there you can find our alumni-owned business directory, information on our social media channels, and more. And Matt Dolan, all around Torero, thank you for sharing your insights.
All right. Thank you very much.
And thanks to Karen and your daughters and son for being part of a great Torero family. Best wishes to all for good health. And as always, go Toreros.
Go Toreros.